Hello, everybody. For those of you guys who do not know me, my name is Amoya. I am the author of the lifestyle and travel blog, Trippin Momma. And I realized that I have talked a lot about kind of my divorce and single motherhood on my blog, but I haven't really updated my YouTube channel with this information. So that is exactly what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Just so you guys have more of an idea of who I am, especially if you're new to the channel, I can tell you a little bit of backstory before I jump into the longer story. For the past year and a half, my daughters and I have been traveling full-time until we recently, about 3 months ago, we absolutely fell in love with Albania and decided to make it our home base while we travel throughout Europe. And that's exactly what we're doing. We've been in Albania now for three and a half months. We plan on staying here for a year at least. So that is where we are at. Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about single motherhood, how I became a single mom, a little bit more personal info about myself that I don't necessarily always share, especially on YouTube. I do share it in my blog, so make sure you check the description for a link to my blog, and you can read tons of stories there about my life with divorce and single motherhood and all that great stuff. But let me tell you a little bit. So I actually was a single mom a long time ago with my older two girls. I was a teen mom and spent the first, I'd say 6 or 7 years of their life as a single mom. And then I got married. So I don't want to get into too much backstory about that, but I want to talk about kind of how I became a single mom after my divorce and everything that kind of led to that. Let's see here. Can you see, boo? So, I was married to my now ex-husband for, I'm gonna say we were in a relationship for 5 or 6 years between marriage and dating, so to speak. And we had 4 kids. I had 2 kids. He had 2 kids. We had this blended family. Oh my gosh, guys. Blended families. That was tough. That was super, super tough, but also super rewarding. We had his kiddos mainly full-time. They were with us majority of the time. At one point it was split, but then it switched when we moved to them being with us more. And it had a lot of struggles. Oh my gosh, I was really struggling with being a stepmom. It was hard. It's so hard to blend families, especially with older kids. Not that they were that old when we first blended, which was like 5, 6 years old, but 7 years old, around that age. They were all pretty similar in age, but man, it was tough. It was tough financially. It was tough all types of ways. It was tough, but it was also rewarding because I love my 2 bonus kids. I still communicate with them. I still have a lot of love for them, always will. They were a huge part of my life for so long. So yeah. Anyways, I was in this marriage and it probably wasn't the best. And why was that? Well, it was extremely emotionally abusive. And that's something that is challenging to talk about because it's not talked about often. We talk about physical abuse, right? Where we can see the scars and everything. But with emotional abuse, it's so easy to hide that. And it's easy for the abuser to hide it. It's easy for the person being abused to hide it. And oftentimes you don't even recognize that that's what's happening to you. But that definitely was happening to me. And it wasn't until I found out about my husband's affairs that I kind of woke up to all the other abuse that was happening. But that's basically how it came about, is I kind of discovered that he was being unfaithful. And I can say that now and smile because had I not discovered that, I'd probably to this day still be in that very, very emotionally abusive relationship. and my life would not be as amazing as it is had I not found out something so devastating at the time. But looking back on it now, I see it as such a big blessing in disguise. And that's what I always try and tell people, is that some of our worst moments, some of the worst things that could ever happen to us are just this bump or this message that something more wonderful and more beautiful is just around the corner if you can just push through those really, really tough times. And man, did I have some tough times when I finally decided, like, there is no way I can be with someone who is unfaithful to me. I could be with someone who's emotionally abusive, but I couldn't be with someone who is unfaithful. At the time, that was my thinking, right? It was embarrassing, humiliating, and I just was like, no, I'm not going to stay in this marriage. And I left him. My youngest daughter was 3 months old, and it was like, okay, I'm a single mom again. Like, this is what I did not want to happen. I held off on having another baby for so many years. I went and got my degree, I bought a house, all this stuff. So it's like, I don't ever want to be a single mom again because it was so hard. And it is. It's hard being a single mom, but I don't have a sob story anymore. I mean, I did when I first went through the whole, separation, and it was like we moved into this condo in Austin, Texas, like moved out of our marital home, and my daughters and I moved into this condo. My 2 bonus kids, a couple weeks prior to me even finding out about the affair, went back with their mom, and our whole lives kind of transformed. I mean, there's so much. I can't even put this in a video because it would be hours, but I plan on doing more little videos to kind of tell you guys more about myself. Instead of just showing you these funny, goofy videos that my daughters and I tend to do, I wanted to show you some backstory and more about me so you can get to know me more on a personal level. But there was this time when I first separated and I couldn't get out of bed. It was so tough to get out of bed. It was so tough to get my girls to school. At the time they were in school, and now you know that we unschool. It was hard for everything. I was in this like turmoil of, I can't believe I was cheated on. I can't believe I let myself be treated like that. Like, what did I do to deserve this? Should I have been a better wife? It was a lot of self-blame. I didn't blame the other person. Up there's my toddler. She's like, I hear mom talking. I might as well go bother her. So that's what life symbolized in the beginning, was this like hardcore depression and feeling not good enough and not feeling beautiful and not feeling confident, not feeling loved. And back and forth with my ex at the time, I wasn't really ready to let him go. Even though I had moved out, I was still hanging on to him. I was still letting myself be abused. I was still, like, it was this back and forth game of, there's no way I can do this. There's no way I can be a single mom. But the funny thing is that how I see single moms, I see us as some of the most powerful women in the world, because we can do it all. Even when we are freaking falling apart, exhausted, and like, oh my God, there's no way I can take one more second of another kid sick, or my toddler screaming in the background, or staying up all night because my toddler, who still nurses through the night, but at the time was 3 months old, doesn't sleep. She's still waking me up every hour to feed. But we do it, and we do it, it might not be the best, like, I'm not all put together all the time. Me getting like a bra and pants on is definitely a challenge. I don't know if anyone else can relate. That might be too much information, but it's like, dang, this is my problem with YouTube. Let me be a little bit honest, a little bit off track, because I hate staying on track sometimes. Is I would probably do a lot more vlogs if it didn't require me to put like a bra and pants on. So with blogging, I get to write and it doesn't matter. But here the vlog is like, oh my gosh, I've really got to put a bra and pants on. Challenges. Anyways, back to this vlog real quick. So, Yeah, everything was a challenge, but I see single mothers as some of the strongest people in the world. And sometimes they cannot see themselves like that. And I like to highlight them and say, look at you, badass. Look what you're doing. You're doing it. You're doing it all. You are amazing. You've got this, okay? And it's not something I believed in the beginning. I was like, we're falling apart. And I had to come up with things that would bring us joy and get me out of this funk and get me moving, get me thriving, and get me out of this single mom victim mentality that I was feeling. I was feeling like a victim. Oh my gosh, I was victimized. This person did this to me. The world is against me. Wow. Like I was doing a lot of that. I get it. I understand. But I needed to bring more joy to my life, and I needed more joy in my kids' life. And it started with us pulling them out of school. My girls were struggling with school, and we just decided that homeschooling would be the best thing for us. And it was so much fun right from the get-go. All this stress was like lifted off my shoulders, and we just started having fun. And we started doing these little mini not day trips, like weekend trips or something, but in the middle of the week, which was great because it was cheaper and didn't have to worry about school. And we would go to the coast in Texas because we were in Austin and have a blast. And then we like flew to Vegas for a few days, my daughters and I, and we had an absolute blast. Yes, Vegas is for kids too. And we just decided, like, I was trying to think of a way to travel more. And I was like, I can't give up on traveling. It's so much fun. It would distract me from some of the stuff I was going through. It would bring us closer together because we would have these crazy adventures. And I had stumbled across something called World Schooling on a Facebook group. And I was just like, oh my gosh, if I could just get rid of it all. If I could get rid of the condo payment, which was huge, it's like $1,800 in Austin, or maybe it was $1,500 somewhere. My mortgage was $1,800. Long story. But if I could get rid of all that and I could just travel, the money I would have used for a mortgage or rent in Austin, I used it towards our accommodations for the month, wherever we travel to, then I could really make this a lifestyle. Like I could make it happen to us. And sure enough, I got the idea. I approached my landlord with breaking the lease early, and all within, I think it was 30 or 45 days, we had gotten rid of everything, most of everything, and set off on an adventure. I think we started in Disney World and then went on to Puerto Rico for a month and toured the US at one point for 2 months and lived in Canada for a couple months and then Mexico for a couple months and headed to Europe, and then somehow we wound up here in Albania. But so, that was my big story though, and the big thing with becoming a single mom. I was married, and then I was not married. I actually got divorced over the telephone during our 2-month road trip. My daughter's and I's 2-month road trip. We were in New Mexico, and my ex had signed the divorce papers finally, thankfully. And I had my lawyer go to court, and the judge and the lawyer calls me on the phone, and the divorce is all finalized like that. It's pretty fascinating what you can do in this day and age as far as that goes. And that was like the true start of like, okay, I'm free. I had already started feeling free because I started traveling and getting away and just loving my girls and learning to love myself again. And now this single mom story I have is so different than when I first started, and I only saw myself as this like broken, shattered individual, because I definitely don't see that now. Now, it doesn't mean that single momhood is not tough. It is. Is it stressful? Hell yeah, it can be very stressful. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way right now in our life. Because it's pretty freaking magical. So that's a little video today. Little is 14 minutes long or longer, depending on the editing on this. But that's a little bit of a backstory. I want to get on more of these videos for you guys to give you more of an idea of who I am. And I will be doing that soon. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to share it, spread the message, go to the blog. And I look forward to doing another video soon.